This is TWiT.
All right, let's talk about 18.1. And I guess, Jason, you said there's two because they also released the betas for 18.
For 18.2, which is second wave. So we basically got the first wave of Apple Intelligence has gone out to everybody this week. And the second wave has gone out as a developer beta, which again, I think Apple's being really clever here of kind of, when they put out the iPhone, they also put out a public beta of the first wave of Apple Intelligence. So they couldn't be accused of not making it available, at least in some form, if you wanted to get it. And now when you talk about the first wave shipping, you also sort of need to talk about the second wave, which we've seen because it's actually shipping in a way as a developer beta. So they're trying to broaden like what is in Apple Intelligence as they go. So there are a whole bunch of new features. In fact, it's I think a much more impressive collection of things in the 0.2 developer beta than what shipped in 0.1. 0.1 is very mild. I think what I've noticed, especially on social media in the last day or so, is we cover this stuff closely, right? We watch it, we think about it, we talk about it here, but the vast majority of people don't. They see those ads, they see the branding for Apple Intelligence, and then they update to 18.1 where it's like, welcome to Apple Intelligence. And what I've noticed is a large number of deep misunderstandings about what's going on that I don't blame the people for. I really blame Apple for misinforming them about it. The one that I keep seeing more than anything else is even some reasonably well-informed people who say, oh, great, Apple Intelligence is here with 0.1. I'm going to try out Siri and see if Siri's any better. And what can I tell you? It's not. Like the better Siri stuff, Siri's better at one very specific thing, which is if you sort of stumble over your words, correct yourself, it will be better at understanding what you're saying. But in terms of querying sources and understanding what's on your screen and stuff like that Apple has promised, that's not going to happen. A lot of that stuff's not going to happen until next spring. So I think this is Apple reaping what it sows a little bit in terms of overpromising what's in Apple Intelligence right now, and people maybe misunderstanding it and thinking that this is a done deal and it's all baked in there, when in fact it's, 0.1, it's summaries and some writing tools and not even the image generation stuff because that's coming in 0.2. So it's a very light Apple Intelligence debut, and that's okay. It's fine.
It's I think notably it's the harmless features, the ones that are like notification summaries, which in itself people who've been testing them have had certain feelings about, but we're not talking about they're not introducing any image editing tools. They're not introducing any like do your job for you, do your homework for you tools. It really is baby steps. They're very, very content to. And Craig Federighi actually, Joanna Stern at the Wall Street Journal posted a 20-minute interview with Craig Federighi about Apple Intelligence. So clearly they really want to get that messaging out that this is not the finished feature. This is just the first thing that we're releasing on a long continuum of features. I mean, for heaven's sake, they're still calling it beta, and technically speaking, there is a waiting list for it. It's not activated immediately. I mean, to be fair, it only took like. I was expecting, oh gosh, maybe I downloaded it yesterday. I was thinking, oh God, I hope I have time to take. They approved me for it before like Tuesday's show, and I got in like an hour or two. But they're not expecting everybody to be using this aggressively immediately, nor are they prepared to. But they also know that. It's not like BlackBerry and Microsoft and Android having to react to the presence of the first multi-touch iPhone on the market, where they know that, okay, Doom is coming on a swift horse. We need to actually get things out really, really quickly. AI is going to have some sort of an impact. It's going to power some features that people are certainly going to expect in their phone, but it's not going to drive sales really for at least another couple of years until everyone figures out what the table stakes are for AI on a mobile device.
So when I put 18.1 on there, I did not get a pop-up or anything. So I realized, I still don't have it. So there is a new entry for Apple Intelligence in the settings, and I asked for it just like literally 5 minutes ago, and it's now preparing it. So the wait is not long.
It's weird. I got the pop-up on my iPad. I did not get the pop-up on my Mac, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, I haven't seen it on the Mac either. So I didn't get it anywhere. But interestingly, I applied for it on the phone, and we're looking at my iPad, and it says preparing as well. So I think
once they approve you for one device, you get access to it for the entire Apple account. When I was approved on the iPad, immediately it appeared on my Mac as well.
So I was hoping that I could, as like you, Andy, I was hoping I could play with it on camera here, but I guess I'll let you guys play with it. The story in the Wall Street Journal, Joanna Stern says, Apple Intelligence isn't very smart yet, and Apple's okay with that. Are they really okay with that?
Yeah, exactly.
They have to be.
Yeah, they're saying a lot of things that are signature for them, which is very positive, which is we don't have it. We're not like Google, we're not like OpenAI, where we are trying to build an entire industry based on artificial intelligence. Those two companies, they have plans that go way beyond like a smart assistant on your phone or autocomplete text on your phone, which is pretty much what Apple seems to be lending themselves to. Let's add features to this specific line of Apple products. They really Google wins if they become the render farm, the compute farm for artificial intelligence applications and research. So that's the game that they're playing. Apple realizes that they can play the slow game, and actually no one's gonna complain to them about saying, oh well, we're being very, very conservative. Meanwhile, they're technically, yes, you could say they're behind, but they're also not getting a whole bunch of like alarming press coverage about stupid things that their latest product did in the AI space, like some other companies that we could easily talk about. There was one of the most interesting things in the Craig Federighi piece was that even when it comes to image editing, he said that they're being very, very conservative. There was a lot of discussion about, there are things that are really just instinctively cool and applicable and makes sense to a lot of people. Which is, again, I got a picture of my kid at Disney World. Unfortunately, there was like a guy in the background with a Party Naked T-shirt on, and I really don't want to have that like in the background. It's cool when you're using Adobe Lightroom or using a Google product. You just simply tap on the guy and he simply disappears and is filled in with more Disneyland. But Craig was saying we're worried about what is the truth of the picture, and should we be responsible for altering the truth of the picture?
Interestingly,
now's a great time to talk about it.
Gemini on the Pixel 9 does allow you to completely alter the picture with fantasy. Yeah. That's something Google does. Apple's decided they don't want to do that, huh?
And that's also perfectly legitimate. I mean, it's not just because they don't do it doesn't mean that it's a thing. If they prohibit an Adobe app from doing that on the iPhone, there's also a big component of Apple Intelligence where ChatGPT is if the Apple Intelligence can't handle something and wants to send something out to ChatGPT, it'll send something out to ChatGPT. Isn't that really, really Romulan-like in cleverness, where they're basically saying that anything that could be really, really controversial, that could get us in trouble, we're happy to let somebody else do that, and you can blame them for that. Meanwhile, we'll give you some warnings about sending something out to ChatGPT, and then our hands are clean.
Interestingly, this is literally 5 minutes later. It's now saying, okay, you've got it.
The wait's not very long. I mean, you're mostly just.
Why are they even doing that then?
Well, so they're having you download the models, and I think they also want a function to gate this in case there are issues.
In case it's crazy,
especially since some of their stuff is on the cloud server. And if they feel overwhelmed, they can limit the people coming in to get Apple Intelligence. So they've got a few ways of kind of like controlling it. But you do also have to download the models. And so that's part of the process. And that happens afterward. What's happening with the developer beta is really interesting. The people who downloaded that right away and asked for access to the image generation tools, many of them got them, but everybody since then has not gotten access to them. They haven't. I haven't heard. I think Micah maybe got access the other day, but I still don't have it. Very few people I know even have it. So there is something going on in the developer beta side where they are being a little more limited in rolling those features out to devices, which is also interesting.
Yeah, that was pretty quick. That was a few things it's going to do, and that's it. Yeah. The summaries might be good. Are they good? Did they do a good job?
Yeah. I mean, they're not perfect, but they're good. They're very helpful. Sometimes you get apps that really spam you with summaries or with notifications, and if you've got like a smart door lock and it says like the door opened and closed and opened and closed and opened and closed, it will say, The door opened and closed a lot. It most recently closed at this time. And so which is all you really need to know, right? Or for me, it was my home like irrigation controller, where it was like the irrigation system ran and then it concluded at this time. And that's all I needed to know. And I didn't need to know more.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's actually much needed.
Yeah, not 100% perfect. Sometimes it gets it wrong, but I would say more useful than not.
Yeah, and just the simple ability to say, here's a whole bunch of text I don't have time to read right now. Please summarize it for me so I can prioritize what I will actually read. That is like taking the party naked guy, t-shirt guy from the background of a Disney World picture. That's another one of those things that is immediately relevant to so many people. Those little things, they work fine too. And also, let's not forget that when they're probably gating access also because for a lot of the features that are not being done on a device, that's all being done on Apple servers, on Apple's custom Apple silicon in their private security system. That means that they can't just simply buy more compute if they are being overloaded at any one time. They have to buy more land. they have to get more servers up and running.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if Apple starts to do like the notebook LM stuff that Google's doing is just mind-bogglingly good. Yeah. Like just mind-bogglingly good.
Yeah, Meta. Did you see Meta last week released their version of it, and it sounds crappy. It's like they had to do it.
I'm not even talking about the podcast.
Not the podcast thing. Oh, okay. Just in general.
I'm just talking about you take a bunch of documents, you throw them in there, and start having natural conversations with them, and you're just like, what?
I've been a fan of this for some time. This
and this is all there for Apple. It's all there for Apple to do, right? Like they can connect, notes or notes with different tags or whatever. Like imagine Apple building all that in their system, but it's going to take, that's probably a next cycle kind of thing for them because they're still getting up to speed. But there's still good stuff. Like in point one, I mean, we should mention writing tools because writing tools is in point one. And although
it's interesting, it doesn't write for you. Or it doesn't start right, like it seems like it'll rewrite things for you, but it's not like ChatGPT, like write me a thing.
Right.
That,
in point two, it does let you do that using ChatGPT, but in point one, it doesn't. But still, as a writer, I can tell you everything I write gets worse when I put it through writing tools. But that is not surprising, right? Because I'm actually a writer and I do this for a living. Yeah. But the truth is, lots and lots of people struggle with the written word. People who are very smart, but that writing never came naturally to them, and they feel very uncomfortable. And there are also a lot of people for whom English is not their primary language or their first language. And so
look at all those manuals.
Not about the people that are like above the bar and above average. It's about the people who really struggle getting more confidence to know that that the software that comes on their Mac or on their iPhone can make sure that what they're writing makes sense or is professional or anything like that. I think that we need to acknowledge that because it would be very easy to poo-poo it and say, oh, this is a silly feature. But actually, I think it'll be a big deal for a lot of people. And my kids can't write a professional email or cover letter to save their lives. And, that's one of the advantages of using this is instead of sending their text to me to vet, you press the professional button and it looks better. Also, a friend of mine pointed out, if you're really mad at somebody and you're sending them an angry email, if you can just stop long enough to go, please
make this nice.
It just back off a little. Just back off.
The make nicer button is really great. And
there's an actual make nicer button. No, friendly they call it.
Make more friendly.
Friendly. It's got a smiley face.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it brings you towards the mean, right? And so the issue is if you're below the mean, it's great. And if you're above the mean, it's not as good.
Yeah, because LLMs are all about flattening everything to the average,
basically the
right?
mean.
Yeah. To the average. And that's why they're the cliched and they're kind of boring and they're kind of obvious. But if you struggle with writing, and I really no judgment here. My dad was an incredibly smart guy. And I mean, he couldn't write to save his life. He just couldn't. I remember him writing things down on a notepad and I'd be like, what is this? Because I was always super verbal. Like for people like that who are then put in a situation where they have to send an email for their job, or they have to send a text, and it's very important, and they're completely at sea. To be able for the OS just built in to throw them a life preserver and say, we can help you is a big deal.
There's a lot of things that are give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Like, like I write a lot of proposals and there's got to be a cover letter, for it. And they won't accept it if you don't have a cover letter, but no one reads the cover letter, but it has to be reasonably good. Yeah. It has to cover the things that you need to say or whatever. And I just say, I just tell ChatGPT, write me a cover letter. These are the highlights. This is the thing. I want it to be formatted with the address and blah blah. And it'll ask me questions if you don't know what you're supposed to do. It asks me a couple of questions, and boom, there's a cover letter. You just put it on.
One of the most clever features in the writing tools that are in 0.1 that are out there right now, you can make an executive summary. Essentially, it's called like make it a bulleted list or something like that. But it's an executive summary. We know what that feature is. That feature is for an executive, a boss that you're working for, who fancies himself so important that I'm not going to read paragraphs. Just give it to me in a bulleted list. Yeah. And so it makes a bulleted list with little bold face points with colons and then like a little one-liner about it. It is making an executive summary. And again, you should look and make sure it actually summarizes the points you want. But it's kind of brilliant where you're like, okay, do you as a worker need to wade through a 4-page document and generate an executive summary?
How do you do that? You have it in a text. So you might, if it's she did this with her interview with Federighi, and presumably she used Whisper AI or something to transcribe it.
You select and you choose writing tools, and then in this case, it's called Create Key Points. I mean, they might as well be create learnings, right? It is for the boss who wants bullet points, but it will do that. It will do, so you can generate a summary or create key points, and it's really smart. So in 0.2. To Alex's point, not only in 0.2 can you just write anything and it will say, I will use ChatGPT and give you something back, but you can also, they're opening it up in 0.2 where you can give it particular nuance. So instead of saying all these pre-baked things, make it friendly, make it more professional, you can also say, like in the box, you can click and type, make this a little bit funny, but not too funny, or make this have like some puns in it or whatever. And it will do that. So you don't have to be limited to the pre-baked stuff. If you've got a pre-baked, because in the end, it's not so much about Apple controlling it, I think, with the pre-baked as it being something that I believe for a long time, which is anytime somebody with an LLM tells you, look, it's everybody's favorite interface, a blinking cursor in a blank box that you have to type with something to coerce it to do something. It's like, I really like the idea that there's a professional button and a happy button, but they are letting you, if you have a very specific need in 0.2, you can actually do that.